let's listen into Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking in Mumbai.
I bet you were out in the street or honking your horn when the West Indies lost. I bet you were full of pride when Kapil Dev came home with the team to a hero's welcome. That's what competing and winning feels like. Winning doesn't have to be exclusive. India and Israel are both winning by our partnership, which is reaching unprecedented heights, and this is just the beginning. Here's an example. Here's an example how competition and innovation reaches down to the people, because ultimately that's the test. So we were in a center of excellence, which is one of the 20 centers that we've helped establish here to give Israeli know-how in agriculture to Indian farmers. And one by one, farmers rose and described how Israeli know-how and technology helped increase their incomes from farming 4 times, 5 times. That's what I'm talking about. That's winning and winning together. And I was very proud. I was moved by the fact that we, a small country far away, could make such a big impact in a big country like India. I want every farmer in India to have this experience. I said to Prime Minister Modi, we'll increase the number of centers to 30, one in every state. But I would suggest to have 1,000 Indian, not farmers, 1,000 Indian agents for this knowledge spreading into untold numbers of farms and farmers in India to upgrade Indian farming productivity on a revolutionary jump. Yesterday I also visited iCreate. This is an impressive hub where brilliant young minds come to solve problems. I thought I was in Israel. I walked down that alley and you have these young Indian men and women producing unbelievable things. I was particularly impressed with a 14-year-old boy, you know, this was Slumdog Millionaire, you know. This kid, 14-year-old brilliant boy who produces a drone that goes up to the skies and identifies landmines. This is something that obviously can save a lot of tragedy and a lot of misery. But I said to Prime Minister Modi, take that boy, build an industry around him. Just give him the opportunity to be an entrepreneur or to team up with entrepreneurs and let them ply their genius. In this room, there are some of the most talented and successful CEOs from India and Israel, and you got here because you're great competitors. My message to you is never stop competing, because competition benefits us all. It's what allows the development of the most cutting-edge technology at the lowest price. And I also want to warn you, don't rest on your laurels. Competition never ends. It never ends. Now, I know that you think, well, you know, if you establish enough market share, you can rest. It'll be over. It's never over. Even the giants now in the information world that are capturing the world, if they think it's over, they're over. Because you'll have disruptive technology, you'll have something new coming in and taking even the giants down. You can never stop competing. So we have to organize our national economies in a way that makes it profitable, makes it possible, and makes it easy to compete and innovate. Very briefly, what we did in Israel is to change the way we run our national economy to enable the genius embedded in our people to burst forward. And I want to say a word about that. You may think that our genius is a result of our educational system. Possibly. I don't think it's that good, but our real educational system is in the Army. We bring in a good chunk of our population into the Army. We give them tests, and we then allow them to rush into these technological streams, so by the time they're out of the Army at the age of 21 or 22, they've acquired an enormous amount of experience, which they're knowledge workers in cutting-edge fields, especially IT, and then they can start their own businesses, right? Right? That's the story of Israel, right? Wrong. We had that technology for years, and we couldn't get anywhere. Why couldn't we get anywhere? Because if you tried to do anything in Israel, you couldn't. You were overloaded by bureaucracy, by constraints, by union interference. And so all that talent went one place. Where did it go? It went to California, where it met Indians, who are also coming from similar situations. Okay? If you think, and I always say that in Silicon Valley you hear Hindu dialects, Hebrew, and a little English. That's about it. But here's what we did to change that. When I looked at the Israeli economic system, and I said, there is so much talent here. There's so much potential here. But we can't create the competitive environment to let it burst forward. And I received the stewardship of the Israeli economy in 2003 in a great collapse. We had an economic collapse. You remember the dot-com bubble that collapsed? You remember that? You don't? Everybody does, if you're old enough. And we had some terrorism, and the explanation for our collapse, decline in GDP per capita, tremendously high unemployment, a central bank, a major bank was about to fall and taking all our banking system with it. The major explanation for that was indeed the bursting of the NASDAQ bubble and the security situation. And I thought that they affected it, but I didn't really think that was our major problem. And in Israeli terms, it's not necessarily identical to what you have in India, but I want to tell you how we fashioned economic policy to spur competition. I went into about 2 weeks for about 20-hour days to put forward a plan to resuscitate the Israeli economy. And when I put it to the public, I decided, what is the image? What is the image that I can use to explain what our problem is and what the solution is? And I fell back on my first day in basic training in the Israeli paratroops. The commander put us on a line, just put us on a straight line. And he said, we're now going to take a race. You may be happy to know in India that it's called the elephant race, which means, he said to me, I was the first in line, he said, Netanyahu, take the guy on your right, put him on your shoulder, you're the elephant. The next guy, take the guy on your right, put him on your shoulder, and so on. And then he blew the whistle, and that was the race. We had to march forward. I had a guy, pretty big guy on my shoulders, and I could take a few steps. The next guy was the smallest guy, smallest member of the company, and he had the biggest man on his shoulders. He collapsed on the spot. The third guy was a big guy, and he had a small guy on his shoulders, and he took off like a rocket, took the race. And I said, in the global economy, national economies are pairs of a public sector sitting on the shoulders of a private sector. And in Israel's case, the public sector became too big, too fat. And the guy at the bottom was about to collapse. So what we have to do is basically, that became known as the fat man, thin man story. And every cab driver in Israel can still talk to you about the fat man, thin man story. So in our case, the thing that we had to do was put the fat man on a diet and give oxygen to the guy at the bottom who's pulling the race, the private sector. What is oxygen? Oxygen is lower taxes, simple taxes, easy taxes. I think Prime Minister Modi knows that very well because he's just simplified the tax code, and that's very important. All right, now, so we did that. It's very hard politically in Israel to do that because we had an immensely bloated public sector, and we did a lot of things to bring it down. We trimmed it down. We lowered our tax rates significantly. Now we have this athletic private sector carrying a fairly lighter load and ready to rush forward and take the race, right? Wrong. Because when he wants to move forward, he hits a ditch. And when he crosses the ditch, he hits a fence. And when he crosses the fence, he hits a wall. And when he crosses the wall, he'll hit barbed wire. These are called barriers to competition. It's called regulations. Mr. Minister, First Minister, you don't have regulations here, right? There's no excessive regulations. I want to thank you for your hospitality, too. Thank you. But it's true that our major challenge today, our major challenge in Israel is excessive regulations. And when we remove those regulations, when we remove this jungle of bureaucracy, we get instant growth, instant competitiveness. We allow those young geniuses, men and women in Israel, who want to form, instead of going to California, they can be in Tel Aviv and form their own startups and profit very quickly. This was our challenge, and we did it. We have now changed the face of the Israeli economy to a business-friendly economy. When I spoke to Prime Minister Modi, I saw that he was doing exactly that. He is up to the task. He understands what it means to have innovation. He understands the need to simplify the bureaucracy and make it possible for business leaders to operate in a much better environment. But here's the point that I think applies to both of us. We have to continue this process within our own countries, but we have to bring the talents of Indians and Israelis together. One of the things that we're trying to do is facilitate a simple thing, an efficient, direct flight route between Israel and India of the kind that we have between Israel and Silicon Valley, the kind we now have between Israel and China, at China's initiative. Because the ability to have these contacts is enormously important for you to build value and create innovation without our interference and with our support. This is what we're committed to. I want you to know that you will be received in Israel with unbelievable warmth, I would say with tremendous affection and love. There is a deep and abiding respect for India, for the people of India, for the culture of India. We're two of the oldest cultures on earth. We are democracies. We share our love for freedom, and we share our love for humanity. We are truly your partners. This is a partnership made in heaven. Let us now consecrate it on earth. Come to Israel, invest in Israel, and Israel will come here as well. Thank you. Thank you all. Much success to our great partnership. Thank you. Thank you.
That was Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailing India's tax reform as well as addressing top Indian CEOs at a meet in Mumbai. This after he visited a startup hub in Gujarat, talking about the future and how innovation is such a key and integral part towards a successful economy. Again, Benjamin Netanyahu just wrapping up a meet there, talking to business leaders in Mumbai, talking about some of the acumen, some of the accomplishments that India has made to several Indian CEOs in the city of Mumbai. He spent part of his day yesterday visiting a startup facility in Gujarat and praised that, made mentions to that in his speech. Now, as part of his visit to India, he also has a jam-packed agenda. He started this day with a power breakfast with top Indian businessmen, as well as many of the chairs, including the ICICI Bank CEO, as well as other leaders from many dominant companies, including Anand Mahindra as well. Many of them were present at that breakfast earlier on this morning. Also part of his India-Israel Business Summit address, he was able to meet and greet, talking to many CEOs, business leaders, discussing quite a few things. He'll also be meeting Baby Moshe and his family at Nariman House in Mumbai. He'll hold a meeting with the Jewish community there as well. All of this as the 10-year anniversary approaches later on this year for the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. He'll attend a Shalom Bollywood event as well as several other engagements in Mumbai. All right, let's go to our guest now to get some perspective on how crucial this meet is here in India with Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's now go to Mayor Javed Nafar, who's a Middle East analyst, joining us live from Tel Aviv with the very latest. Meir, great to have you on the program here on WION. We just heard Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to a group of business leaders here in Mumbai. What is the mood like there in Israel in terms of his India visit? Meir, go ahead. Meir, if you can hear us, what's the reaction there in Israel on Israel's Prime Minister's visit to India? All right, let's see if we can get him back in a little bit. In the meantime, let's get you some perspective on what exactly we do know at this point about Netanyahu's visit right now. Again, he was addressing a group of business leaders in Mumbai. He's got quite a few things planned up. He has a Shalom Bollywood event. He's also going to be meeting members of the Jewish community at Nariman Point as well, and meet baby Moshe, one of the survivors of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. Let's see if we can go back to our guest joining us, Meir Javed Nafar, joining us from Tel Aviv. Meir, how significant is this visit? How is this being covered in the Middle East?
It is a very significant visit for the state of Israel. It has been an important piece of news in the Israeli dailies, although it hasn't been, in some of them, it hasn't been the headline. However, the visit has been covered. This is a milestone for the state of Israel, especially in terms of developing its relations with the regional superpowers such as India in the Indian subcontinent and in Southeast Asia. So this is very, very important for the current Israeli leadership and also for the people of Israel.
Meir, can you also talk to us a little bit about the reception that when Modi got there and now this Modi was there not too long ago and now Netanyahu here in India, sort of drawing a lot of parallels between the importance, the ties between India and Israel.
I've been doing this job for 12 years, and I can tell you the only time we usually see the people of Israel getting excited about the head of a state visiting this country is when the President of the United States visits here. But I have to tell you, when Prime Minister Modi came to Israel 6 months ago, the level of excitement that it generated among Israelis was, I think, somewhere I've never seen before for a foreign head of state, perhaps with the exception of the U.S. President. Important reason because so many Israelis have visited India and are visiting India, and they know India. But the level of friendship and the welcoming that we see from Prime Minister Modi and the developing ties, the commercial ties between the two countries, it's been very warmly received here, and it was a tremendously successful visit.
All right, Meir, thank you so much for all those updates and insights on the visit of Israel's Prime Minister here in India.